In episode 4, after the fallout of what happened between Loki and Sylvie, Renslayer had to go tell the Timekeepers what happened, and they weren't too happy to hear that both variants escaped. She gets out of the meeting with the Timekeepers and tells Mobius the severity of the situation. And Mobius tells Renslayer, well, if they want me to find the variants, I need to talk to C20. When we found her, she just kept saying, it's real, over and over. I need to find out what that meant. He keeps pleading his case on why he should talk to C20, but finally Renslayer says she's dead, which comes as a pretty big surprise to Mobius, because the last time Mobius saw her, she seemed fine. But Renslayer informs him that the decline was pretty steep, because the variant, Sylvie, scrambled C20's brain, and by the time she got into the TVA, she could barely speak. After that, it was all downhill. She then instructs Mobius, you have to find these guys because every moment that they're out there, we're all in danger. So Mobius goes to work. He starts looking at the timeline through a magnified Nexus threshold. This thing heightens everything. And while he's looking through anything out of the ordinary, Hunter B15 walks in and asks about C20, but Mobius just tells her, yeah, there's no update. She then focuses her attention on the timeline, and she's worried that they're not going to find the variants. But Mobius reassures her, we will. And while Mobius and his crew are looking for seemingly a needle in a haystack, Loki and Sylvie are basically waiting for the world to end. And while debris from the moon start raining down upon the planet, Sylvie tells Loki about the first time she ran into the TVA. She was just a girl on Asgard, playing with some toys, when all of a sudden, the TVA showed up. Actually, it was Renslayer, as a hunter, and she took this little girl into custody and arrested her for crimes against the sacred timeline. She took her into custody and took her before a judge, the judge who we assume is the judge before Renslayer took over, but Sylvie escaped, biting Renslayer's arm, grabbing a tempad, and using it to open up a portal and get out of there. Ever since then, she's been bouncing around from doomsday scenario to doomsday scenario. She grew up literally in the ends of worlds. They then have a conversation about what it means to be a Loki. Does it mean you always lose? But Loki starts telling her no. I mean, we may lose, sometimes painfully, but we don't die. We survive. And he starts waxing poetic to Sylvie about her accomplishments and her survival. And he starts getting really passionate about it. Sylvie actually touches his arm. But when she does that, it creates a blip on the timeline. And the spike keeps rising and rising because it's so out of the ordinary. It's just the clue that Mobius was looking for, so he sends his agents to go grab the variants. And they bring both of them back into custody. Although this time when they bring them back, they split them up. Mobius has the guards take Loki back to the room he was interrogating him in, as they both scream at each other who betrayed who. Mobius then opens up a portal that the guards are about to throw Loki into, but before they do, Loki tells Mobius, the TVA is lying to you. And Mobius just thinks it's another trick, so he chuckles and tells the agents, alright, throw him in. And at first, Loki can't believe his luck that he's being transformed back to Asgard. He thought it was going to be way worse than this. But then a familiar face shows up. It's Sif, holding the hair that Loki cut, and she is pissed. She walks towards him screaming how he's a conniving, pathetic worm, then slaps him and tells him he'll always be alone. And Loki suddenly remembers this going down. He then remembers what he did afterwards. He took a hot bath and never thought about it again. But that's when he realized the punishment, because this whole memory is on a loop, and Sif just keeps coming back, slapping him, coming back, slapping him, coming back, slapping him, giving him the same speech over and over and over again. And while Sif is getting her revenge, Mobius goes to visit Renslayer asking if he can interrogate Sylvie while Loki is in what they call the time cell. Renslayer, though, says no. Renslayer tells him she's too dangerous. Work your Loki and figure out what caused the spike. As he walks out of the meeting, he runs into Hunter B15, who is keeping guard of Sylvie. And she asks him, hey, did Loki say anything when you guys were in there? And Mobius chuckles and says, yeah. He told us the TVA was lying to us. And unfortunately for Hunter B15, that is very believable. There's something that she hasn't been able to shake since that doomsday event where they found Sylvie. So she actually takes matters into her own hands. She walks in the room pretending that she's going to delete Sylvie, but instead, she pulls out her tempad and opens up that very same doomsday scenario. Her and Sylvie show up in 2050 Alabama. And Sylvie thinks that she's just looking for a fair fight this time, but Hunter B15 says, when you were in my head, I saw something. What was it? And Sylvie informs her that she saw memories. At first, Hunter B15 doesn't believe it, but Sylvie says, I can't implant memories into your head. I have to go with what's there. I showed you your life before the TVA. Because the truth is, we're all variants. Me and you are the same. Hunter B15 then says, alright, prove it. So Sylvie once again goes into her brain and shows her some memories. And Hunter B15 starts crying, saying, I looked happy. But then Hunter B15 asks, what now? And for the time being, that means sending Sylvie back to the room that she took her from. While all that was going on, though, Mobius did what he was told. Started working his variant. He took Loki out of the time cell and started questioning him on what he meant when he said that the TVA was lying to him. Loki tells him, well, if you let me out, I'll tell you, and Mobius just figures that's a trick. So then he starts questioning Loki about the relationship between him and Sylvie. Are you working for her? Are you partners? What is it? And Loki denies that he's working for her, but also says that they're not partners, saying that their relationship was nothing more than a means to an end. Mobius then gets into the real question, what caused the Nexus event? And Loki says, I'm not going to tell you what caused it for you to turn around and delete me. So since they're at a dead end, Mobius tells him, well, I just got to put you back in the time cell then. And that is something that Loki definitely doesn't want to do. So he starts telling Mobius a lie, that it was him pulling the strings all along after Sylvie came to him on Asgard a long time ago and convinced him to come with her to one of her apocalypses. And at that apocalyptic event, they hatch their plan. Mobius asks him, though, well, what exactly is your plan? But Loki isn't ready to give up that information because he just hasn't thought of it yet. He just tells Mobius that something very, very big is going to happen. And when it does happen, he plans to dispose of Sylvie. But Mobius tells him, well, we saved you the trouble. She's already been deleted. And all of a sudden, Loki's entire mood changes. He says, hold on. What happened to her? And Mobius lies to Loki, saying that Sylvie was going to her time cell, she broke free, she killed 2 of their guards until Hunter B-15 stepped in and zapped her. And Loki tries to play it off like he's not upset, but Mobius sees right through it. He starts cracking up and mocking Loki about the fact that it's obvious that Loki likes Sylvie. Mobius tells him, you're an incredible seismic narcissist. You fell for yourself. And Loki yells at him, is she alive? And Mobius says, for now. He then asks, was overthrowing the TVA always your plan? And Loki says, our interests were aligned. Maybe the Timekeepers need to be overthrown because you're all variants. The Timekeepers didn't create you, they kidnapped you from the timeline. They then erased your memories that she can access. Because before this, you had a past, maybe you had a family, but you certainly had a life. But Mobius just looks at him and says, nice try. He then has the guards throw Loki back in the time cell. But that little nugget that Loki told Mobius is sitting with him. So when he goes upstairs to see Renslayer about closing the case, he can't shake it. And after signing the paperwork and they're sharing a drink, Renslayer asks him, if you could go anywhere at any time, where would you go? But he doesn't answer the question. He says, why wouldn't you let me interrogate Sylvie? And after some prodding, she finally says, okay, I'm trying to protect you. Of course you would normally interview somebody like that, but the variant scares me. And I didn't want to see anything happen to you. After what happened to C20, I couldn't deal with that happening to you. He then asks Renslayer where she's going to put her new trophy, and as she's putting it on the trophy case, he swaps out temp pads with her, and then makes an excuse to get the hell out of there. And he heads to a quiet nook in the library where he opens the temp pad and sees that sure enough, C20 is listed as deceased. But when he opens up the file, there's a video of C20 telling them that what she saw when the variant went into her brain was real, and that she had a whole life, that she's a variant. And then she starts telling the people, so are you. But then all of a sudden, Renslayer ends it. And after seeing that, Mobius goes to pay Loki a visit. He tells Loki, do you really think you deserve to be alone? Because if you don't, then I think the Nexus event that you two caused can bring this entire place down. And Loki's a little taken aback about this because the last time that he talked to Mobius, he was full on TVA. Now he's changing his course. So he tries to get some clarity on it, but Mobius asks him, are you sure that she didn't implant those memories in a Hunter C20? And he says, yeah, Mobius, I believe her. Which means, unfortunately for Mobius, he has to trust 2 Lokis. Mobius then tells Loki, you were right about the TVA from the beginning, and if you want to save her, then you have to trust me. But when they step out of the time cell and back in the TVA, Renslayer and a bunch of hunters are waiting for them. And it's a pretty bad look. Renslayer at this point knows that Mobius took her temp pad. And Mobius tries to play it off like it was an accident, but it becomes clear to him that that lie isn't going to work. She doesn't believe him. So he figures at this point he should answer that question she asked him in the office. Where would he go if he could go anywhere in the world? And he says, well, I'll tell you where I'd go. Wherever it is I'm really from. Wherever it is that I had a life before the TVA came along. But as he's talking about riding around on a jet ski, the hunter deletes him. Or prunes him. Because I know some people will get really upset that I'm not using the terminology correctly. I think it's just easier for everybody to understand delete. She then instructs the guards to take Loki into custody and go grab Sylvie, because they are to be deleted in front of the Timekeepers. So both Lokis get in the elevator to go see the Timekeepers. But as they're heading up, Sylvie asks Renslayer, you remember me. Why did you bring me in? What was my Nexus event? And at first Renslayer asks, what does it matter? But Sylvie says it was enough to take my life from me. It led to all of this. Must have been pretty important. So what was it? And Renslayer thinks about it, but eventually she says, I don't remember. And then the doors open up. and both Lokis are standing in front of the 3 Timekeepers. And the Timekeepers ask them, what do you have to say for yourself? And Loki says, is that really the only reason you brought us here? To kill us? I've lost track of the number of times that I've been killed, so go ahead. And Sylvie tries to get a word in edgewise, but her collar is zapping her back. But then all of a sudden, the collar stops working. And that's because the elevator doors open up, and Hunter B-15 is standing there with the control of the collars, and she releases them. Shortly after that, Hunter B-15 gets knocked out, but now it's Sylvie and Loki against Renslayer and her guards. Eventually, this breaks off into Renslayer versus Sylvie, and Sylvie ends up knocking her out. Loki takes care of the other guards, and now it's just the 2 Lokis and the Timekeepers. The Timekeepers try to say, hey, we can talk about this, but Sylvie throws up the sword, cutting off the one's head. And then all of a sudden, they all just slump over. And that's because they were animatronics, which leaves both Lokis completely confused, asking the question, who created the TVA? They're both kind of thinking about what to do. And then Loki turns to her and says, Sylvie. And she says, oh, please, not another pep talk. And it seems like Loki is about to tell her how he feels, but then all of a sudden, he gets deleted because Renslayer woke up and has zapped Loki. Sylvie, though, disarms Renslayer and is about to delete her herself, but then she decides, no, I'm not going to do that because you're going to tell me everything. But it turns out, when Loki got deleted, he didn't actually die. He gets sent somewhere else. He has no idea where, though. He's asking, is this hell? Am I dead? And then all of a sudden he hears a voice say, not yet, but you will be unless you come with us. And there's 3 different Loki sitting there, including a crocodile Loki. Croaky. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.